Hello and welcome to KLM Institute.
In a deeply distressing escalation of violence and humanitarian crisis in Gaza, recent Israeli airstrikes have resulted in significant civilian casualties and exacerbated an already dire situation for the Palestinian population. On May 7, 2025, Israeli airstrikes targeted the bustling Wehda Street in Gaza City's Rimal neighborhood, striking both the Thailandy restaurant and a nearby market. These attacks claimed the lives of at least 33 Palestinians and injured over 90 others. The Thailandy restaurant, which had been operating as a community kitchen providing meals to displaced families, was completely destroyed. Eyewitnesses described scenes of devastation, with bodies found slumped at tables and in the streets. Among the victims was Palestinian journalist Yahya Sobeih, who had just become a father hours before the attack. In addition to these strikes, Israeli forces also targeted UN-run schools serving as shelters for displaced families. The Abu Humaisa school in the Beray refugee camp was bombed twice, resulting in the deaths of 33 people, including women and children. Another strike on the Al-Karama school in Gaza City's Tufa neighborhood killed 15 people. The Israeli military stated that these strikes targeted Hamas command centers, but the high civilian death toll has drawn international condemnation. The humanitarian situation in Gaza has deteriorated rapidly due to a blockade imposed by Israel since March 2, 2025. This blockade has cut off essential supplies, including food, water, and medical aid, leading to widespread malnutrition and starvation. Hospitals are overwhelmed and unable to provide adequate care, with many patients, including children, suffering from severe malnutrition. The United Nations has reported that approximately 10,000 children are acutely malnourished, and food prices have skyrocketed, making basic necessities unaffordable for most families. In a poignant example of the crisis, 6-month-old Siwa Ashore is suffering from severe malnutrition due to the lack of specialized formula milk. Her mother, Najwa, is also malnourished and unable to provide adequate nutrition for her child. Siwa's condition highlights the broader impact of the blockade on vulnerable populations in Gaza. International aid organizations have warned that mass starvation is imminent unless the blockade is lifted and humanitarian aid is allowed into Gaza. The United Nations has stated that Israel, as the occupying power, is obligated under international law to ensure the provision of food and medical supplies to the civilian population. However, Israeli officials have denied the existence of an aid crisis, asserting that sufficient supplies entered Gaza during a previous ceasefire. In response to the escalating conflict, Pope Leo XIV delivered his first major address as the new leader of the Catholic Church. Speaking from Vatican City, he condemned the attacks on civilians and called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. "The cries of the children of Gaza are not distant echoes," he said. "They are the voice of humanity asking us to reclaim our conscience. No faith can justify the slaughter of innocents." He urged all parties to commit to peace negotiations and called on the international community to ensure unimpeded humanitarian access to the region. Pope Leo also demanded the release of all hostages and emphasized the need for a just and durable solution that respects the dignity of both Palestinians and Israelis. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has come under growing criticism for his administration's failure to broker a lasting ceasefire or permanent resolution to the conflict. While Trump previously boasted about a short-lived ceasefire in mid-April, his approach, characterized by vague ultimatums to both sides, a lack of clear peace strategy, and over-reliance on back-channel talks with Netanyahu's cabinet, has yielded no meaningful progress. According to diplomatic insiders, Trump's refusal to apply pressure on Israel regarding its continued blockade and aggressive settlement expansion crippled any chance of a sustainable ceasefire. Moreover, His administration has focused more on optics and domestic political gains than on addressing the structural issues of the conflict, such as the occupation, displacement, and rights of Palestinians. Observers note that Trump continues to support Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu unconditionally despite international outrage, primarily due to political calculus. Trump views Netanyahu as a critical ally in securing support from powerful pro-Israel political lobbies and evangelical Christian groups in the U.S. Additionally, their personal rapport and shared populist ideologies have led Trump to shield Netanyahu from criticism, even as the humanitarian situation in Gaza becomes catastrophic. The global community, despite expressing moral outrage, remains largely ineffective in compelling Netanyahu to change course. This is due to several factors: the veto power held by the United States at the UN Security Council, Europe's fragmented response, and the broader geopolitical hesitation to challenge a well-armed and diplomatically protected Israel. As a result, resolutions are stalled, sanctions are off the table, and humanitarian pleas remain unanswered. Notably, South Africa's President Naledi Pandor has directly accused Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. "This is not a war, it is an extermination," she said in a speech at the African Union, echoing calls from legal scholars and humanitarian organizations. "We are witnessing, in real time, the systematic destruction of a people." Under international law, genocide is defined by the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Article 2 of the Convention defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial or religious group, as such. A. Killing members of the group. B. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. C. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. D. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. E. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Legal experts argue that the deliberate targeting of civilian infrastructure, mass displacement, blockade-induced famine, and disproportionate killing of Palestinians could meet this definition, especially if intent can be demonstrated. With international outrage growing and the humanitarian situation worsening by the hour, the eyes of the world remain on Gaza, where over 2 million lives hang in the balance, awaiting justice, relief, and peace.